Hey, this is Brian Wright. I'm here with Nicholas Salles. Nicholas is an old member. Man.
Oh, man. OG.
Yeah, I do believe you started your training with me.
Yeah, 100%. I think before training with you, I was like doing Taekwondo and, messing around with karate and stuff. But it was really with you that I was exposed to Jiu-Jitsu and MMA and all that stuff. And I still have memories to this day of I'll say this, which is, I think, something that's really missing in the martial arts culture is like coaches actually interacting with students. And I have very fond memories, very brutal memories as well. Because I remember you.
I was a hard guy back then.
But it was
your mom still hates me.
Yeah,
your mom still hates me.
She loves you, dude.
No, she still hates me.
But dude, you would be there with us in the class. You would have a spar and you'd be sparring with us and you'd be teaching us lessons on the mat, not just from outside the mat and instructing from outside. You'd be there with us. And I remember you would be pinpointing mistakes as we're sparring. Like, why are you doing this? Making me think critically as a kid, why did I just jump guard? Like, that makes no sense in a MMA context. And I think, honestly, this is something that is being more popularized now. Like, there's technical terms for that pedagogical approach, which is like, showing your students instead of telling your students sometimes, which I think has been missing, and that is now something I'm trying to inject back into my ecosystem. But you were ahead of the game, dude. And I think just being that coach that's there for the students, not just there, designing practices and just looking from the outside in, I think is something that is missing.
I got to say though, so I can't take full responsibility for that because that was how the Japanese taught me. I've always said it, like, I'm a karate guy through and through. No matter what I'm doing, I'm not doing karate technique. It's the system. It's the way that it was taught to me is how I teach everything. So the relationship of senior and junior, of being able to do what you're showing. It's leading the way. Your instructor always stood in the front of the room and was repping with you. From day one, that was just always ingrained in me. So, I mean, I'm going to be 52. I can't do all the things I used to do. I don't really spar that much anymore. My knees are shot. I got a bad neck. Like, now I have to preserve my body so that I can be on the mat as much as possible. So, like, longevity is like a balance now. It's different, but that's what you learn over time. But yeah, I was afforded an opportunity to have a super effective international style of coaching introduced to me at a young age. And that set a foundation. And that's why we were talking before we started. I started when I was 24. And all the local jerk-offs were like, who the hell are you? And I'm like, yo, at 24, I have a lifetime's worth of training compared to what you've done. Like, you're a bunch of local guys that do your local thing and you take care of yourselves. And, the bow tie black belts, the guys that were so fat that their black belts are like bow ties now.
A pack of cigarettes.
I'll
be right in like a couple minutes. Just get started. Start warming up.
Fancy titles, big belts, all the
10-foot trophy.
That they gave themselves at their own event, like craziness. But that was like that was a heavy culture at that time. And I came from a completely different culture.
But I think it's like we're seeing that now, the reintroduction of Eastern philosophy in martial arts. And that's something that I'm actively trying to do as well. Because I think Western culture overcorrected for the Eastern aspects to the point that, like, I think martial arts gyms were trying to mimic the learning style here in the West, which is like you sit down, you listen to this lecture, and the instructor or the authority of the class is telling you exactly what to do, how to do it, and then just kind of observe from the outside. So
you're coming heavily from Jiu-Jitsu culture.
Yes.
Jiu-Jitsu culture is different, though, because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes from Brazil. They say that, okay, so it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it uses Japanese terms, Japanese uniforms, a Japanese belt system.
We call it
without a curriculum. Like, a kimono is not the proper term, by the way. It's supposed to be a dogi, not a kimono. Kimono is what you wear when you come out of the shower.
I learned that in Japan, actually. Like, there's all these words for different, like, kimono-esque garbs. Like, there's one you wear like after the onsen, and there's one you wear like when you're walking around getting ready for bed. And it's like, it's like what you're saying. There's like specific names, and we just completely butcher the terminology.
You didn't butcher. Well, you did. You're Brazilian. You're Brazilian. I'm not. But the Brazilians butchered it, and they made it their own, and they created their own thing. And then they came to America. They didn't have a teaching system. They didn't have structure. And then they started to like pick and choose what they wanted, and they created this thing. So the funny part is that, so I'm talking about, I'm 24 years old and I've got all these fat dudes telling me what to do. And now you're talking about, we're starting to change. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going through the same cultural shock that the fake traditional American coaches went through when I was a young guy. The MMA exposed those guys, but I think it's different now. I think that competitive martial arts exposed that group that I was dealing with. Like MMA came around and obliterated everything.
Yeah.
But now
it's kind of swung.
But I don't think it's too far. But it's not competition.
Yeah.
I think it's the negative byproduct of the culture that is making people evaluate themselves.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I have a hope that because it's coming from a real human place, not a competitive place, that culture in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu can actually change for the better and last, but they can't agree on anything. So like, there's not. I
think it will take time for these things to happen.
I just don't know if you guys are going to ever be able to see a unified method or curriculum.
So. But I do think that gyms who don't evolve and develop to stay with the times where jiu-jitsu is heading, where martial arts in general is heading, that those gyms will fall out of favor or will start to go extinct. The way I like to look at it is we're seeing the bubble of jiu-jitsu start to stabilize or start to like, I don't want to say pop, because I think as long as
some of the air out. Some of the air is being let out.
As long as guys like Joe Rogan, MMA is super popular. So I always think of it as like jiu-jitsu being tethered to the UFC. As long as the UFC is popular, jiu-jitsu is always going to be somewhat popular, but it is stabilizing, right? There isn't the same hype.
All right, but Joe Rogan is the biggest supporter of the guys that created the negative culture. Because he's a fanboy of history, and there's a lot of big names in history that we overlook a lot of the personal choices they made because of the high-profile competitive things that they did. But that's happened in every sport everywhere.
That's why I'm looking forward to a changing of the guard. I don't think we need these figureheads anymore, because like, to your point, I feel like they are holding us back, because there are still people coming into the gym who very much found out about jiu-jitsu through Joe Rogan and all these people. And they have a very, ideological idea of what jiu-jitsu is supposed to be. They're coming in already with these assumptions and these norms. And so to your point, I think it's not really going to change all that much until there is a changing of the guard, until there are new figureheads in the sport pushing it in a direction that I think we both kind of agree on, which is less about the traditions, and we can have a conversation about what exactly those traditions are, and creating a new culture that I think will sustain martial arts for years to come. And I think that comes from removing the competitive aspect a little bit. I think even myself as a gym owner, I'm kind of pushing competition to the background and bringing community building and culture to the foreground, because these 24-year-olds that are competing at a high level, they have high aspirations, they're going to get older one day as well. And so how can we create a environment where these kids, when they're older, they can still train, still be in love
with
jiu-jitsu?
So there's an evolution in their practice.
Yeah, but that should happen from the beginning. They shouldn't be sold this idea of what jiu-jitsu has been or martial arts has been. They should be already exposed to the culture from the beginning, so they know what to expect, and they can grow and evolve with that environment.
But you're almost 30, or are you 30?
I'm 30 in September, yeah.
Okay, so when you were 20, you couldn't have said this.
I couldn't have, no. And then if someone had told me this, I would have thought they were crazy. Like, what are you talking about?
And if you didn't compete as much as you did, win the things you won, and did all the travels that you did, you wouldn't have this
realization.
I mean, at 52, I'm still traveling and I'm still active. But how I go about it is very different. When I first started, I felt like, oh, this is what you have to do. And it was a little bit of a rock and roll lifestyle time. And I'm on the road, I'm doing my thing.
You opened up your gym in your 20s during the peak, explosion, that initial golden era.
So we were rock stars in a lot of ways. It was crazy.
You were a pioneer at that time, right?
Yeah.
You were in uncharted waters, right?
I was one of the people that was willing to do what other people were not, to see where this thing was going to go. So like, I've always kind of, I don't know, when I want to do something, I do it. I'm kind of that way. Everybody knows that. Like at that time, like half the room is telling me, no, this is the way it has to be. And the other half was like, I think it could be this. And I was like, well, I don't agree with either of you. I think it could be that. So let's all like just keep beating each other up and figure out where it's going to go.
But we need more people who are open to that. Like, no, let me find this third path, this middle way, which is something that I've really come to embrace more recently. Because I feel like I was thinking for myself, but it takes a lot of actually like self-analysis and looking deep into yourself too.
So you were thinking for yourself, but you didn't have enough experience to translate it in a way that was going to provide value in a communal aspect.
Yeah, because I feel like you think you have free will, but it's an illusion of choice because you're still constrained by these like invisible structures. And these invisible structures are all the things that your past coaches have told you, all the things that you're reading about online.
You're reacting how you were programmed.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're working within the confines of the jiu-jitsu culture, and you think you're doing all these things. And I think it takes a lot of almost like self-restructuring to realize like, oh no, that's not a real thing. That's just something that I internalized, that someone else told me, but it doesn't have to be that way, like you're saying. For example, really straightforward example of this would be like warm-ups. Like the whole shrimping down and back the mat for like 15 minutes. When I first opened up a gym, I knew right away that was something that never sat well with me. I'm like, why are we wasting so much time doing these like small little decontextualized skills that have nothing to do with the goal of jiu-jitsu, which is like to get better at submitting people or controlling people. So that for me was very obvious. It's like, okay, we can do better here, right? Like even though everyone in my entire history of jiu-jitsu has always told me, no, this is how you start jiu-jitsu class. You have to warm up this exact way. I don't have to internalize that. Now that I have my own space, I can literally do what I want and create the environment that I want. And so that was one of the first things to go.
So I'm gonna hop in. Yeah. So I actually do long form warm-ups in the beginning. And I stopped at one point because I felt the same way you did. But I came back to it with a different attitude because I recognized that having the ability to do the boring things over and over is where you show me you're prepared for the next things. So it's almost a recalibrating of focus for me, that it has to be a little boring. It has to be a little repetitive, because for me, ultimately, it's going to give you the opportunity to get where you want to go. Not technically. That's technically not doing it for me.
I would say the intention behind the thing is almost more important than the action.
Exactly.
Because like I can look at you doing something and I could be like, oh, he's doing what this other person's doing. But that's not the case.
Or you could come and say this is bullshit. And you could say, that's what everybody does. But no. But I used to do it that way.
So you had a breakthrough moment and then you but with a different mindset behind it, I think speaks to a deeper level of thinking.
Of course.
Like you're not just doing what you've been told.
So you can do what you were told in a way that is yours.
Yeah, 100%.
As long as you continue to understand how to translate the value of the technique, you can make it yours. It may look like everybody else's, but it can still end up being yours. And that's the beauty of martial arts. And that's what I love about this process, is because you could have a breakthrough and say, you know what, I'm actually going to walk away from it and do it this way. And there's value to that. And then I may just figure out like, well, if I flip the intention, it actually becomes effective again for me. So like there's, a lot of different routes to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you might change intention on certain things because of us sharing ideas.
Yeah, and your experience.
I might add ideas off of it as well, and that exchange. And I think ultimately what we're talking about is that gets lost so much. We just don't talk. We just do.
Yeah, we just do, yeah.
But if we're analyzing, looking inward, you keep saying looking inward, you definitely are the guy that you traveled, you competed, you did your thing, and then you woke up one day and you were like, why do I have a big hole in me when I've done so much?
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, understanding like, so having that mentality that I got here because of these experiences, and that understanding that I am a historical being, I'm embedded in context. So how can I embed the experiences I have in the training room? Because I can teach someone the end result, but how about all the steps and all the experiences that culminated into that thing? And I don't think you can really impart the information without the context. And so and it's not easy, but every time I design a practice, or I'm thinking about like what lesson I'm going to be doing for the day, I'm thinking like in terms of how can I embed the context in the training, rather than saying 2. And you're like, what's 2? It's like, 1 + 1 is 2. But I'm just giving you an answer. I didn't actually teach you how to do the arithmetic.
Or even worse, 1 + 1 is 2, and it's really great because I just told it to you.
Yeah, just do it because I told you.
And not only just do it because I told you, but it's fantastic. And it's amazing because it's me who told it to you.
Which is even
and that's the black belt bullshit mentality that I'm like, come on, guys. Get out of here.
Let's do better. Right?
Let's do better.
And you brought up an interesting point too, in that what you described is you also accepting that you're still learning and that you're still a student. And that's another aspect, is like coming in as a coach, right, or an instructor. We both despise the word professor. Coming in as that person who's going to be designing the practice, never removing the student in you, right? So when you're in class and I'm teaching, I'm also learning from my students. I'm seeing
balance. It's two sides. I can't be a coach without students, but I also have to still maintain enough of a student mentality to understand the trials of the student in this moment. I mean, I opened up in 1998. It's soon to be 2026. And I'm like, it's very different. If I treated it like 1998, I wouldn't have any students. I'd be teaching in my backyard now to like my neighbor's kids. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to evolve because communication does change. Information changes in delivery. There's a lot of different things going on. So the student for me is always being open to the moment.
I think that's the key word, is open. Always being open and never being static.
You can't be dogmatic.
You can't be dogmatic, but you
have to be principled.
You need principle.
Principle without dogma.
And that's what I try to explain to people. I don't believe in authority, like in the terms of being authoritarian, but I believe in authority in the sense that I have principles. And when I am thinking about creating a culture, those cultures are based on things that I believe in, that things that I value. But that doesn't mean that authority is me telling people how to be, what kind of jiu-jitsu practitioners they're supposed to be.
Sometimes you do have to tell somebody, like, shut the fuck up and do it because they're in their way. But that's not being authoritarian. That's actually caring and understanding you're in a block right now, and we need to like obliterate it. So I got to be a little hard on you right now. But then there are other times where you do have to break it down and give it an historical context, give them a story. You know what I find too with context? So I don't really glory speak too much. It's usually
glory speak like
I'm so great. Only talk about the good moments. I tend to talk about my worst experiences. People are like, man, you had a lot of bad things happen, because they don't hear me talk about the wins. I usually talk more about like, I had my jaw shattered and I still fought another 3 rounds kind of thing. And I'm like, because there's more value, because we were saying before.
But that humanizes you to the students, right?
But it's not even the human aspect of it, as allowing people to understand just because I own the place or I've done things doesn't mean there wasn't a tremendous amount of struggle that you're going through in this moment as well. And I think the common bond is not the success. The common bond is the fear, fear of failure, the fear of judgment, having trouble getting off the couch to go in after a hard day's work, like, drinking your water, eating properly, like not drinking before, like on a Friday night when you're sparring on Saturday. We all go through the same shit. Like, I mean, I'll literally on a Friday night, I'll be like, do I watch this movie and be like cranky and exhausted tomorrow? Or do I do the right thing and like show up tomorrow morning so I can teach better?
Give your all.
Give my best. Like, do my job.
And I try to apply that even to the smallest common denominator, which is I used to be super vigilant about correcting people. when I was first teaching. Like I had this obsession that my students had to do the technique perfectly. And to what you're saying on like a smaller scale is also being okay with your students making mistakes and being,
because if you're not okay with it, they're not going to be okay with it. And now you just did them a disservice, because now they're going to try and be perfect in a negative way.
But that's
instead of understanding, like trying to be perfect is an acceptance of failure, but failing as far forward as possible.
Yes. And
it's different.
And having your students be fearful of failure, that's what we were talking about prior to the podcast about obedience being a different thing altogether and separate from loyalty, right?
Yes.
And so as a coach, I obviously want a culture where my students trust me. And part of that trust is like them understanding that I'm okay with them making mistakes. We all make mistakes. You telling a story about how this happened, right? And that humanizing you and your students being like, wow, like he's not perfect. You know, and that boils down even to the technique. It's like technique doesn't have to be perfect in the room, because
expressing the fear of my highest level athletes makes the new guy show up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because he's like, if that dude can fuck up, and if that guy can be scared, then I'm allowed to too. And I may actually be able to move in that direction.
Yeah.
I can start to get as good as that person possibly.
But I find that making mistakes actually gets you there sooner.
So much better.
The way, like,
it makes you humble.
Yeah. And,
if you allow it to.
And I heard someone explain it like the difference between like building something and sculpting something, right? Like when you're building something, that's like implying that, okay, here's a scissor sweep, here's an arm bar, and that eventually you'll build someone's game. But the way I try to look at jiu-jitsu now, it's more like you're starting with like a slab, and you're just chiseling away at that slab until you get to that final product.
So do you know who actually was the originator of that phrase? It was Michelangelo. So someone asked Michelangelo, they said, like, what's your process? He said, most sculptors take a piece of marble and they turn it into something. I chip away all the excess and allow the sculpture to come out.
And that's what I feel like martial arts should be.
I heard that when I was like 17, 18, and that was the thing. I never felt as an instructor I was giving you anything except the freedom to find it in you.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean?
No,
I'm stripping away all the bullshit you've accumulated on top of yourself and allowing yourself to come out. And then technique will be there.
But see, it's so refreshing to hear you say that, because that doesn't happen in most places.
Well, no, because the problem is if I make the fear, this is, the Japanese had this fear too, by the way, the taekwondo, the karate.
That's what I'm realizing is
they
that
all have the same fucking fear.
Is so ahead of the curve.
But the business owners are afraid of one thing.
Yeah.
If they give you enough strength to find the answer within, they won't need you anymore. Yeah. And now you don't get the tuition. Where I'm like, no. Real loyalty is built by creating strong people that respect that the relationship is what created the opportunity.
This is a societal issue too.
Of course.
Like, when I go to, like, my whole educational experience was me sitting at a desk and just regurgitating information. Not once did I have any teachers give me the space to create knowledge and add my experiences into the learning process, right? Of course. And so, to your point, I feel like a lot of the business aspects of jiu-jitsu, a lot of the gyms that open up just try to replicate what's been being done, maybe because it works, it's not broken, why fix it?
It's the industrial learning complex.
It's like, but why should we succumb to that? And then I want to get your perspective on this, and because we just did belt promotions, and I gave a speech on what it means to be a black belt. And the premise being, jiu-jitsu always changes. Martial arts is always evolving, right? Whatever I show or whatever jiu-jitsu I do today, in 10 years is going to be completely different. Maybe, right? So
I got videos from like the turn of the century.
Maybe it's cyclical, right? There's so many ways to go about it. But what makes you an expert at martial arts? Is it the fact that you memorize all the moves, or is it the fact? So what would your answer to that be?
I don't think you're a master of anything until it becomes a part of you more. So because when you're a student, there's a separation between you and your craft. You're learning. So it's like you're here, your craft is here. And then over time, all your barriers are broken down and it just becomes your human existence. So like when you feel like you're breathing jiu-jitsu instead of doing jiu-jitsu, now you're a master of jiu-jitsu.
Perfect. Yeah, that's
like, it's just, because if you're too academic about it, it's lacking. It's lacking. Yeah. And if you're only emotional about it, you're lacking. Yeah. It's using both sides of your brain. Yeah. And having, I mean, your heart in it is a terrible analogy, but it's like,
but kind of, right? Like,
it's kind of like our body, mind, and spirit, to not get too like hokey about it. But when all aspects of you are encompassed in it, you've got it. So I'm an artist, I'm a painter. The one thing I find is when I'm not coaching, I need to paint more. Mm-hmm. And when I'm painting, I don't need to coach as much. It's a creative process for me. So I know things, and then I creatively have to deal with them to communicate them. Yeah. So it's this constant...
It's praxis, right? It's action and reflection.
Yeah.
And I think it's this, and jiu-jitsu is not any different. And that's why...
Well, nothing's different when it's done at a high level.
Yeah, and that's why in my classes, I really try to push this dialogical approach. Like, so the way I design a lesson is I'll start with the problem, but I want my students to experience the problem first. I'm not gonna show them the solution. They don't even know why they need that solution. So I try to start with the problem, put them in the experience, see how they felt about that experience, and then we can start talking about like what solutions can start to look like by having them participate in it. And what you said was really interesting, because I read Paulo Freire. I'm a huge fan. I've already read like 4 books by him. And he talks about the dichotomy of expertise in the West, which is, you know, we grew up thinking that the expert is the PhD professor who knows everything about some indigenous tribe in Africa. And we internalize that like, okay, so expertise is knowing everything you can know about this tribe, right? But in reality, why don't we think about the people in the tribe as the experts of their culture? They're the ones waking up in the morning, making their tools. They know what it's like to be in the tribe, not the outsider looking in who's just writing on a piece of paper what they observe. And then you said something beautifully. It's not just knowing, it's also embodying, right? It's feeling. So I am so disillusioned with the idea that jiu-jitsu is something that you can just break down into abstract concepts and just teach people those concepts, and then over time just reward them a black belt.
So Masayama, the founder of Kyokushin Karate, said that fighting around philosophy is violence. Yeah. Fighting with philosophy is martial arts. Yeah. So it kind of is along those lines, where if you're just absorbing information and executing without a personal understanding or even having guardrails on it, now it just becomes this combative, weird thing, or it's this nerdy,
super competitive
thing. But when you're looking at it from a philosophical standpoint of like, I'm a human being doing this activity, and I'm doing this activity because I want it to affect my humanity this way, then there's a different interaction. Yeah. So now your purpose and your practice is different. And then also the pressure of your practice changes because you're not looking at it from a winning and losing perspective. You're looking at it like, am I better because of it practice? Yeah. So you have the ability to lose and be analytical about it and say, okay, how do I learn from that so I can be better?
Yeah. And embracing ambiguity, like being okay with coming into class and allowing students to steer the direction of the class too.
I had a guy the other night in exactly what we're talking about, got tapped and he pounded the mat. Fuck. And I was like, okay, what happened? What happened? And he was like, I don't know. Well, why'd you get caught in the armbar? Well, I don't know. And I'm like, but he gave you the gift of armbarring you. Like he showed you the blueprint of how to do it.
Bingo. He showed you. The opportunity was presented.
If you were less focused on winning and losing and looked at what was happening, you would have learned how to defeat it and you would have learned how to do it, but you missed it, man.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's why it's so important to start with the experience, because if you just say, guys, we're going to do arm bars, or let's say, oh, we're just going to do back takes, right? And you're so tunnel vision on the back.
Or even worse, we say, we're going to do back takes. Who's going to win, guys? Everybody who loses is going to have to do 1,000 squats.
All the opportunities you're going to be blinded to, right? There's going to be so many blind spots. And I love what you said. What is he showing you? Because that's literally something I tell the students every day. It's never what you want to do. It's what they're giving you. But you can only see the opportunities presented to you if you're aware of what's
aware of it.
Yeah. And that awareness also is living that experience and feeling those opportunities when they come. And it's not a linear, straightforward, clean path. And that's something I'm trying to embrace more. It's like, it's okay to have people fail. It's okay to have a class that goes all crazy directions.
So we talked about this too. And the problem is once you start competing is you open yourself up to exposure in the community at large. And the problem is that martial communities are horrendous, toxic places. Yeah. So the problem is when you win, you got lucky. Mm-hmm. When you lose, it's because you suck and you were never good. You weren't supposed to be there. There's no positive to it. But we carry this weird fear and we project it onto our students if we're not in control of ourselves, to where like when they do it wrong, they're misrepresenting me. People are going to look at me as less than, and they're wearing my name and my colors. Man, I legitimately, I've always been proactive. That was how we started this. I have a relationship with everybody and I know why they're here and I know what they're looking for. And as long as that's okay, I will take the hit. I don't care. I had one of my coaches got submitted in like 12 seconds in a fight not long ago. There's a whole backstory to it. The fight probably shouldn't have happened, but it really was important for him to do it in that moment. It ended the way it did. And I was like, I don't like losing. I hate losing. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, tomorrow we're back at it. Yeah. We're good. And I just put blinders on to anything else that comes my way. You can highlight that on the internet and you can comment it a million times and I'm okay.
It's learning
because my guy and I were good in that. And no one was in the back room having the conversation that I had with him after. No one was there the next day when we spoke again. Yeah. And nobody trained with him the week after where he was like, okay, this is what I have to do. And no one's been there since, seeing the evolution in the process. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm good.
But you also can't reduce it to, you could have just done this. And
No.
And I feel like we live in a world where everything is about a prescription. Like, you lost that match because you could have done this.
But that's just salesmanship by shitty people that are trying to steal.
Yeah. But what I'm hearing is, no, let's talk about it. There's a history, there's a context this person's embedded in that led to this moment. They're going to learn from this. So the loss, honestly, is just going to...
It's just another blip in the fucking road, man.
And what I was going to say is you learn what to do by doing the things that you're not supposed to do. Because back to the sculpting idea is you get to that final solution, as dynamic and unfixed as that is, by doing all the things around. And you mentioned that you're an artist. And I think about it in terms of art as well. It's, I never want jiu-jitsu to be like a coloring book where here are the color within these lines.
Color by numbers.
Color by numbers.
Never.
Just color by numbers, color within the lines. The lines is the jiu-jitsu. The boundaries and the borders of like what not to do, what to do, technically, culturally, ideologically.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you didn't do what you've done for the last decade, you never would have evolved to this feeling. So you played the game.
Yeah. But you have to.
But then you were like, I got to kind of do it my own way because I'm not liking this. Yeah. And then when you start doing it your own way, all of a sudden it was like you took all the guardrails off that everybody was applying to you, and now you're like, wait a minute, there's this big, beautiful thing here, and there are these people, and there's me in it, and there's you in it, and oh my God, wait a minute. This isn't my association. This isn't my black belt. This isn't the patch.
It's more.
This isn't the one mat. Yeah. This isn't the one show I'm comfortable competing on. No, it's this massive opportunity to do this cool thing and interact with a lot of people.
Yeah, and that was my shift going from coach. Now I think of my role as being a cultural worker, right? It's like I'm really teaching people, or not even teaching, I'm just kind of guiding and helping people discover what jiu-jitsu means for them. What does martial arts mean for them? What is this crazy hobby we do together, or this activity we do together?
More translators, I think, than anything, because we just translate our experience in a way that brings value to the members.
We kind of show them the meaning. Like, we show them where to look for meaning.
You give them opportunity. You give them opportunity. You help them find some momentum to then go after that opportunity, and then overcome all the barriers that stop them from going for it.
Yeah, I think the way, because I used to think of things in terms of information processing, but I really like the word or the term sense making. Like learning should just be sense making. And, you know, even in armbar, you're attaching value to that opportunity. That's what creates.
You know, the thing is though, it is A plus B equals C, but it is also making sense of you in that engagement.
Yeah. Without
there's a technical side of it that you have to memorize to give yourself the freedom to then play with it.
But I think the technical side is, so what I find is people put that as primary. Mm-hmm. But I think what you're saying when you had that dialogue with your student is you map the concepts and the analysis and the technical understanding after.
Yeah.
And I think we go about life thinking that the technical understanding comes first. No. But that's not how we actually live. No. And
life's gonna punch you in the face, and you gotta freaking deal with how you feel about it.
Yeah, but it's like this huge assumption. Like, and you know, you're a big fan of philosophy, and I've been reading every day, dude. I'm going through books like on a weekly basis, and literally all of our assumptions about the world have been based on wrong assumptions. And it's like when you realize that, you really start to have like this ego death. And this is part of the reason why like AI is not going anywhere, because our entire conception of what it means to be a person, a living person, is so far removed from computations and algorithms. The one excerpt that really changed the way I look at it is when you learn about temperature in school, they tell you, oh, it's this degree Fahrenheit. Oh, it's the boiling point of water. It's all standardized.
Yes.
But we forget that the reason temperature is even a thing in the first place is because at one point someone was like, oh, this is hot, this is cold.
Yes.
And then they try to standardize that experience. And I think that's what we try to do in jiu-jitsu with culture, right? With norms in the gym. And we do that with techniques too. We're like, oh, this is an armbar. But like, where is the experience? Where's the context behind that?
I'm a pretty prolific writer. I write pretty much every day.
Yeah.
I had an epiphany about 2 weeks ago. So think about this.
Yeah.
Creators and warriors have less children than the spectators. This is like, because the warriors die in battle, and the creators are kind of ostracized by society, and they tend to die young of weird things. Yeah. So the vast majority of the population, like 99.9% of this population, is the descendants of the mob that was given the loaves of bread by the emperor to watch the gladiators kill each other. The gladiators are not who we come from, but we watch movies and read books to make us feel like that, but we're still sitting in the crowd eating the loaves of bread the emperor gave us. So we have this genetic coding as spectators, not warriors. That's a lie we tell ourselves. We have to figure out how to be those people. Yeah. We have to figure out how to get the confidence to get up out of the stands and walk into the arena and to defy the emperor and to go and take on another human being and go against our genetic coding. Because our evolution as people is not about being risk takers or adventurers. Those were the ones that died and we wrote great stories about.
And that's why I think education can be such a powerful tool, because we're programmed, right? We're put in these situations to be the spectators from the moment we're born.
Exactly.
And with the industrial education system, right? Like being put in desks and being taught to regurgitate information. I think it's called the banking model, right? Where, you know, students are treated as like empty containers to just deposit information into. And to go alongside the genetic component, our whole lives we're already ideologically constrained to think about learning a certain way. So I think like what I'm understanding from you and something that I'm learning to break out of, right, is there's so much more.
Yes.
And we can literally rewrite the script from the beginning of how to approach this process. How do we create gladiators through education?
Exactly.
How do we remove people from that spectator seat?
Because all you have to do is remove two things: fear of failure, fear of judgment. It's the two things that stop everyone from doing everything. Why are all the people in the crowd gambling on the fights instead of getting in the cage? It's not they're afraid of getting hurt. Not at all. They're afraid of getting hurt in front of the crowd and ridiculed.
And this is a dogma in jiu-jitsu that is something that will, like we were talking about before, it's going to take some time. So when I was training up in Manhattan, one of the most prestigious schools, right? I'm training with literal world champions. And we were doing positional sparring from a position called single leg X. You know, it's a leg entanglement. And the goal was to just win the round. But because I kept doing an ankle lock instead of what the instructor was expecting of us, basically the person teaching the class wanted us to mimic them.
Yes.
I would do this in this situation. I would sweep them and do this. So I was getting scolded and actually being penalized for doing the ankle locks. I remember I just tapped a person in an ankle lock and they went like, why are you doing that? Like, just sweep them. That's not a good technique. And so even like something as small as that, I feel like I'm being forced to be a spectator because I'm not being allowed to explore something that felt normal, like natural to me.
So as a coach, if we're going about a drill and all of a sudden it starts to go wonky, if it's working, you've got to work it in.
Yeah.
If it's working.
Yeah. So why am I getting slapped on the wrist?
What I say to most people is, why do you do that? When I know you don't know anything, and I know you don't know why, I just say, will you please stop?
Question.
But if you're a good player, a lot of guys, I'll be like, why'd you go there?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go there? We're trying to go here. Why'd you go there? Well, I thought. And I'm like, well, show me.
Yeah.
And if it works, okay, great.
Yeah.
This is your move now. This is your move. You did it.
And that is so important because in that moment.
But what's the goal? But wait, what's the goal? Is the goal to get the credit for being right? Or is the goal to be right?
Bingo.
So if we want to be the guy, and that's it.
You want to be the person everyone. You want to be the monopoly on knowledge in the room, and you want everyone to just imitate the things that you think are right, then that's the culture.
I always said that I always wanted Killer Bee to be bigger than me.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be like when you thought of Killer Bee, it wasn't my face.
Yeah.
It meant something. There was a meaning. There was a phrase to it. There was a philosophy to it. There was a remembrance of certain things happening. It was not like, oh, that's Brian's gym.
Yeah.
Like it had to be something else.
And that's
the
what
B, by the way, everybody thinks the B is my B, but it wasn't. I named it after my son. My gym was a different name until my wife got pregnant, and he's Brian Jr., and I actually named it after him. So the Brian is not me. So like I had zero intention. I actually also think that the biggest douchebag schools I know are named after the owner.
What is that, dude?
It's ridiculous. They're copying. They're copying the culture they come from.
They're copying the culture, and you're already starting off on the wrong foot. The moment you make your gym about you, that means there is no cultural cohesion. There is nothing that the students own because they're just participating.
They're wearing your name.
They're wearing your name. They're just your spectators.
Yeah.
And this is just your performance.
But that's a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu issue.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, it's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, so now it has to be my Jiu-Jitsu because I'm emulating where I come from, and it's that South American machismo culture that it's coming from. It's not Japanese. It's Japanese didn't even name it off themselves. The founders of all these Japanese karate systems, not one karate system is named after the founder. It has some philosophical name attached to it. Like Kyokushin means the ultimate truth. It doesn't, there's no Kyokushin guy.
That's what I love about Eastern philosophy, because there is that divergence, right? Like where in the West, it's very much about you as the individual, autonomous person. You're a rational thinker. You make decisions in a vacuum. You are the creator of your reality, right? And that reality is something that you create in your brain. And from everything I've read in terms of like Buddhism and other aspects of Eastern philosophy, is this one idea of being embedded and connected. So this idea of oneness, like you're part of the world.
That's the harmony aspect.
The harmony aspect. And I think that plays into this role of like, why are you going to take credit when the only reason this thing exists is because of everyone before you? You didn't create the language. You.
But again, that's a culture that believes in reincarnation.
Yeah.
We just believe in the self.
Yeah.
And then we maintain ourself through eternity. So where they believe in a cycle. So it's a different mentality from the start.
And that's the thing. It's so culturally embedded, all these things that we do. Even from a marketing standpoint, even when a Brazilian guy names a gym after himself, it's like, you know, for me right now, what's interesting is like, why do people do these things? And it goes back to what you're saying. It goes back to like their ideology. It goes back to their culture, and the gym needs to be as neutral of a space as possible.
Absolutely. Like I think it has to be, okay, so that's the duality aspect of it, and that's what Asian culture is so good at, because it has to be this open forum, but it also has to definitively be something. So it has to be something that your students are willing to fight for.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be the one that, like, you know, you would like to know that if your name is spoken poorly of by the wrong people, somebody stood up for it because there's a belief in it that's worth fighting for.
But the belief is not in you per se, it's in what the gym
they believe
stands
in what
for.
it stands for, and they don't want that to be misrepresented.
Because it's them.
Yes.
When the gym is spoken
now, that's
about,
again, so what we were saying with mastery. So it's no longer a place in which I'm a number and a member. This is a place that I'm a part of.
Yes.
So now I am fully
creating the environment.
Yes. So when you feel like you're bleeding the colors of your gym because of like an honest connection, because you understand the value, what it does for you and the value it does for other people, and you don't want to see that diminished, you want to see that grow, that's a healthy relationship. And that's the place all gyms aspire to go to. Yeah, so like the thing is with the Asian culture, which I always find really interesting too, is like, so like Japanese culture, Miyamoto Musashi is considered to be the greatest samurai. But the funny part is he goes against every aspect of their society. He was a peasant who rose to samurai class. He broke every rule. He had no teachers. He's self-taught. He killed all these people. And the one thing I learned with them, I've been very connected with Japanese culture my whole life. The thing with Japanese people is that when you go against the grain and it's not successful, they say, see, you didn't play along. But when you do well, they're like, they celebrate you, but they don't want to be you. Like, no one's motivated to be Musashi in their culture. They're just inspired by what he did. So they'll try a little bit harder. They'll dare a little bit deeper, but they'll never fully break away.
They admire the essence and the history and the story that
but
person
they don't want that. But the rejection that comes along with being that guy is too heavy.
Whereas here in the West, like, people long for a strong man character, and you talk about like Hegel and his fascination with Napoleon. It's a weird fixation on the person and not what that person represents or the things that they've done. And it happens in jiu-jitsu too.
Okay, so how many jiu-jitsu schools do you see in the West named Ronin in their name? The term Ronin is kind of used
I think
between
I've seen a couple.
Apparel,
a lot. You see it all over the place. Now, samurai, you see samurai.
Okay, what does samurai mean?
I would say like some sort of warrior.
No, it means to serve.
See?
Do you know what Ronin means?
Is that the warrior with no leader?
It means wave man. Okay. It means you're adrift in the sea with no anchor. But if you're a samurai, you have your anchor because you're serving.
So why does Ronin have that negative connotation? Because it sounds like that's
true. It's a positive in the Western culture, because we have the dream of being the lone swordsman, the lone gunman, the guy who walks in by himself and saves the day. But the Japanese are like, well, if you walk in by yourself, you have no friends, you don't serve anybody, you're alone, so you must be a piece of shit.
So it's the obsession with the individual and not the collective.
And so Western, we love the individual. Eastern loves the communal.
Which is crazy, right? Because what is the individual without everyone who's helped them along the way?
Exactly.
So,
and who's the master that you serve is the question that they want to know. Like, who you are in service to. So in the beginning, it was to your Lord and Master, but now it's like, okay, we're in service to people. So as instructors, if we're Ronin, we have no students, we have no purpose. We go and we fight and we slay only for ourselves. With no other value. So we actually are worthless to society because we're only serving ourselves. But if you then take on the concept of samurai and you understand who you serve, and I feel for myself, it's my job to serve my students, and then to serve my students in a way that they serve the communities in which they operate, so that we are people that care about people instead of being individuals that only care about ourselves. And I think ultimately, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu today, this is the battle that we're fighting.
This is the battle, which is crazy because the answers are right in front of us, right? Like, you can't do jiu-jitsu without your partners.
Why do we not answer the question, though? Because we're scared of what the change may bring. We may lose some dollars.
You might lose some dollars. You might give people too much autonomy.
Or you might stop being a jerk off and all of a sudden quadruple your student base. But you never know.
But it's also changing what it means to be a coach, right? If you look at the role of coach, being a facilitator of
who got
culture,
the black belts? Who got the black belts in jiu-jitsu in the first wave?
Brazilians.
No, but in the first wave in the States, who got the black belts?
Oh, like the dirty...
The fighters.
Oh, you're saying like who went to the Gracies to learn jiu-jitsu?
Who did the Gracies give the belts to? They gave it to the fighters.
So you're saying there's like this snowball effect.
So you have this ego-driven, fight sport-driven, I'm a wild man in my time culture that came up. And also the problem with MMA and the problem with all fight sports is the next generation gets paid better than the prior one. So every coach that ever competed and fought sees their students getting money or getting fame or getting exposure. And they're like, well, I should have gotten that. Yeah. And so that's why when there is a jiu-jitsu coach who I will not say his name, but he had a fighter in the UFC and Joe Rogan was talking to him. He was trying to get the microphone out of Joe's hand to speak instead of his student. And I'm like, this is how bad that culture is. It made these guys feel that the spotlight needs to be theirs, and anything their guy got was due to them.
There's a resistance to like this new approach to teaching as well. Are you aware of Greg Souders? He owns he owns Standard Jiu-Jitsu in Maryland, I believe. And he's the one that kind of injected the jiu-jitsu ecosystem with this idea of like constraints-led approach and all these new things. And people right away, these traditionalist coaches started talking badly about him. It went in two directions. They either said, oh, we've always been doing this, like we do positional sparring, or they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I know jiu-jitsu. Like, I am going to teach my students the right, correct, me. But the whole thing is like, Greg is not saying that your role as a coach is diminished. If anything, he's saying that it's elevated because you're giving power, real power to your students. You're empowering them to be martial artists rather than just creating pods and robots, literally creating robots. And so I guess my question to you too would be, where do we go from here? Because I have some ideas. Obviously, I think we're a little too deep in the development of jiu-jitsu and martial arts and society as a whole. So I avoid reactionary orientations like, oh, let's retreat back to pre-modern, like traditional martial arts, right? But also where jiu-jitsu stands right now, it's unsustainable. You have young guys posting, training footage of them suplexing people. It's all memes. It's all jokes. People are wearing OnlyFans rash guards.
What about guys slamming people through tables and then getting
in ADCC, you see slamming through tables. So this is also not what I envision jiu-jitsu to be. It's obviously turning into something more WWE-esque.
Politics, conspiracy, just this complete fabricated world.
100%. And so when I think about all this, I think, what do I want movement art to be? Where do we take this so that we can control the narrative? We can redirect where this thing is going. And I think for me, it boils down to, okay, maybe we're looking at this all wrong. The traditional models, in terms of like old school martial arts, they were doing things right. They were principled, but maybe
to a point.
They had too much of the authoritarian aspect. And then now we're in this day and age where it's so capitalist. It's all marketing. It's all about the instructor being the center of the gym and then monopolizing the knowledge in the gym, and the students have to bow to them and just literally like just receive from them as if they're some sort of pseudo god in the gym. And so that's obviously even worse in the other direction.
Okay, so I was talking to you before about the book Legacy. Like, I read this book. I was at a fight and I didn't want to leave my room because I got so into this damn book. So the All Blacks are the winningest sports franchise in sports history. It's the national rugby team for New Zealand. They're this massive powerhouse of a team. They went into a cultural slump because they were starting to drink the Kool-Aid too much, believing in the legend and not doing the work to hold it up. So they lose to South Africa in the World Finals. Captain of the team says, I'm going to retire if this is what we're going to keep doing. We have a culture problem. We got to fix it. He goes, the entire team is drunk in the parking lot right now instead of trying to figure out how to fix this. So you guys have to figure this out. The solution to this was the most important part. They didn't go and study rugby. They went and studied every other thing they could get their hands on. They brought in NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, Fortune 500 companies, the recruiter for Microsoft, people from Apple, people from Nike. They brought in people that had found success in things outside of what they do, and then they studied all the traits, and then when they found the commonality, they took the commonalities and built it into their culture, and then they put their own identity on it because they are from New Zealand and they are a rugby team. So they made they took the lessons that
I think it goes
fit.
back to the idea of like, we don't exist in a vacuum. I see the same shift happening in, cognitive sciences. Neuroscientists thought that they could just do everything they needed in their own little world, in their own workshops, and be able to develop a complete copy of the brain.
But you can't expand ideas in a bubble.
Exactly. So now what they're doing is they're talking to sociologists and they're talking to psychologists.
But that's what we have to do, though. But we have to say, okay, so we have to say, okay, we deal with people. So what are the qualities that make humans function at their best?
Yeah.
Psychologically, physically.
And if you're not doing that work as a coach, then what are you? You're doing the same thing the neuroscientists are doing. You're trying to develop this thing, but in a bubble, when everything we do is interdisciplinary. Everything we do is
Harvard did a study about the impact of cell phones. I'm sharing that with my students. College football and the NFL did a study with cell phones, and they found that the teams that had blackout periods before and after games were more successful consistently than people that didn't control cell phone usage. So literally, like when I'm absorbing material, I'm saying, okay, how does that relate back to the struggles that I'm going with people that I'm training? Then I share that information. But I think what we have to do is we have to have a more consistent conversation about that instead of how many followers did this guy who slammed the guy through the table got, and how much money did he make? Okay, I'm going to send him money in Patreon because he entertained me. I'm going to buy his instructional where he's going to show me something I already know. I'm going to pay X amount of dollars for it. I mean, Gordon Ryan makes a lot of money just being a character.
Yeah.
He's very good at jiu-jitsu.
Sure, yeah.
I personally don't think anything in jiu-jitsu is really that revolutionary.
No.
I think it's already been there. There are just people finding success with it, and they're packaging it in a way to make it look like, oh my God, they're revolutionary. I don't think there's that much revolutionary human stuff anymore. We've been around a while. We know how this goes. But so if we study human behavior more, and we have more conversations about that instead of the flash.
Because I don't think that's sustainable. Like, so we were talking about the bubble. Once this bubble pops, once the money runs out in super fights, the money runs out in these big organizations like UFC, BJJ, One Championship, and that trend, that fat guy is out.
Or Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. They split $192 million to have this travesty of a fight. But the thing is, now think about that though. We're sitting here trying to talk about like how to execute as better human beings. Two guys that don't need the money fought for more money than anyone's fought for. Mike Tyson made $1 million when he became the heavyweight champ for the first time. He made $60 million when he fought Jake Paul for no reason. Like we're talking about it's a very transactional and very superficial era that we're in, a postmodern era. We have a value issue right now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So we're missing the real value of what we're doing because we're trying to just not work 9 to 5s.
You spoke about the validation aspect. We live in a validation-based society where people don't care about the value of the thing. They just care about the validation they can get from doing the thing.
Okay, so what they said about cell phones was the problem is that the generation. No, it's all good. The people that were brought up with I'm bringing it up because it aligns with what you're saying. People that were brought up without cell phones had creative brain patterns. People that are brought up on cell phones have a narrative pattern. So I grew up in a time where I had to create my entertainment. I had to create my relationships.
Dude, I remember coming into practice, and right before practice, you'd be painting. Yeah, it's phenomenal. And I think to even exacerbate the problem with cell phones is AI and ChatGPT now.
Well, no, we don't think at all because that's the narrative brain problem.
Yeah.
So now, where before we used to create our existence, now we're consuming other people's ideas about existence and then trying to align with it. But here's the problem that they found. The reason why anxiety and depression is on a rise is because our biology requires that we have a balance of creativity and narrative. So when you take the creativity out and we're stuck only on the narrative brain, the other half of our brain is vibrating, going, yo, what about me? And we don't know what's missing because we're not thinking deeply enough about our human experience anymore. So now we have anxiety and depression and we don't know where it comes from. But then we say,
we're being alienated from the knowledge.
But we're literally coming up with fake anxiety and depression issues, medicating it and blaming it on things that aren't related. It's like, wait a minute, your anxiety and depression is because you're consuming too much content. It has nothing to do with any social issue that somebody that's trying to keep their job is putting in front of your face.
The skill of learning is the creativity. Like,
yes.
like knowledge is creativity.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Even more simply.
Yeah.
The act of learning is recovering from failure.
Yeah.
Recovering from failure is a creative act.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to survive this failure and evolve from it.
Yes.
Not go find the answer on TikTok.
And that's like the foundation of embodied cognition. It's like at the most basic level, what is a living organism? It's something that has to tread between viability and non-viability.
Yeah.
Like I need water. I value water because it keeps me alive.
Yeah.
And we do this when we roll. We are always treading like, oh, I got flattened in half guard. Why? Oh, because I wasn't on my side.
But you also can be told to not value water and to value something else.
Yeah.
And that there's something wrong with
idiocracy, right?
And
what was it, Brando or whatever?
Like, okay, so if you value water, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You should be able to value something that's not water, and you should be able to get the same thing, but you can't go against your biology. You can't go. You can't. Your brain functions a particular way. Your body functions 100%. A particular way. No matter what we do, we can't break.
And learning
certain things about being human.
And learning is being in that area where you need to learn how to stabilize. You need to find those stabilized patterns that keep you safe, right? So you learn to stay on your side. You learn to go for the arm bar when they put their arm here, right? And so you do need to fail. So creativity, right, is like the foundation, but the engine of creativity is failure and is making mistakes.
But you have to also accept that you're human. This is humanity. Yeah. This is the process. This is the only way we evolve. Yeah. The only way you grow muscle is to break it down and let it recover. Yeah. The only way that you learn is to psychologically challenge yourself, risk damaging it, and then recover.
Read the damn book. ChatGPT's 2-sentence summary is not teaching. You're not learning. You're literally just trying to condense and reduce a whole experience of learning, like the book Red Legacy. Dude, you said like you were attached to that book. You know why? It's not because of the message that can be reduced down to a sentence.
I read the whole thing.
Yeah, you read the whole thing.
By the way, I didn't read it digitally. I read the paper copy because I couldn't get it digitally. Yeah. But here's the other part of it.
But I love
here's what's even crazier though. If you read on your phone, they've already proven that your connection with what you're reading diminishes because of all the potential communication that exists in your phone. So your phone may text, call, DM, all the possibilities are in the background. So you're waiting for the ping that's going to pull you off the book. So when you read an actual book, not connect to anything. And then the other one is if you type on your phone versus writing with pen and paper, the way you remember is different, the way you interact is different. So, I mean,
and there's so many analogies to jiu-jitsu, right? Because like,
again, I was just saying, like, strip away all the distraction and just do fucking jiu-jitsu.
Just do
Stop worrying about titles and belts and bullshit and just do jiu-jitsu with another human being. And don't worry about winning and losing. Worry about solving the one problem in front of you and then the next one and the next one, the next one. And then all of a sudden, you've got this really cool thing and you've learned a lot of stuff. And if the other person's in the same zone, you've had an interaction and things evolved. I mean, in essence, like for me, 26, again, it'll be 28 years running this gym. I started off young and dumb. I didn't understand 98% of what we're talking about. I just knew how to execute. But then over time, you just realize that it's like, yo, man, I'm just breathing, eating and sleeping and doing human shit like everybody else. And like, none of us are really that special.
No.
We're just using this as our tool to kind of figure out some purpose and peace and place. And that's it. And if we can like share that with a community of people that'll share that with other people, maybe our existence lasts a little bit beyond our time and we've done something good. Like, but it's a struggle, man. I had to be an asshole for a long time to get to a place where, I mean, I probably still am an asshole, but I'm less of I'm a different kind of asshole now.
Being an asshole is good sometimes.
But you have to be. You have to be. It's a dirty business we're in. You have to have a little bit of FU in you or else you get run over. Because what we're talking about, this is not an easy conversation for a lot of people to hear.
No, people are going to hear this and be like, what is
wrong with that? Yeah. But the thing is, like, we have to actually fight to be heard.
Yeah.
And we have to, not only do we have to fight to be heard, then when people are starting to listen, we have to give them the confidence to fight with us.
And when they experience that for themselves, that experience is what's going to change their mind. It's not telling them.
No,
They need
can't
to
bully you into this.
No, you can't.
You got to feel it.
Yeah, you got to feel it. And then I think only once you feel it, and that's the hardest part about being a coach, is I need to be able to translate my experiences and these conversations that we're having into lessons in the room, because it's not feasible to have every student go through these struggles, travel around the world, compete, learn from these mistakes. So how do we translate? And you said it beautifully. You said, like, we're translators. We're not teachers in the traditional sense. We're getting people to read their world, read the meaning behind the things that they do. And so for us, we're just like a mediator in that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but it's also rewarding, right? It's tough because 100% it's easy. It would be the easiest thing in the world to just show up and be like, all right, guys, we're just going to do this 100 times and then we're just going to roll live. All right, let's go. And that would be so, pay me, yeah. That would be so easy. That takes literally zero effort. It takes zero creativity. It requires very little engagement from me and participation from the students. But I feel like I would be robbing the students of the very experiences I had that got me here, that got me to be what I would consider a martial artist. And so for me, I'm constantly learning. Like you're saying, you're reading books, you're reading papers. I do the same. And it's like, you know, even the cell phone thing. How can I take information from the outside and make this experience more profound than what it's being sold as?
The hardest part, and we've been talking for a while, so I think we can kind of like wrap it up. Is like the thing that we keep talking about is that the hardest part of anything, and like human experience, like caring about stuff is very difficult, because if you care, you have to risk being hurt. Mm-hmm. So if you are going to be a coach that cares, students are going to hurt you. They're going to take your stuff and disrespect it.
Oh yeah.
They're going to go somewhere else with it. They're going to shitpost you online. Mm-hmm. You have to take that risk to put yourself out there, honestly, because you care enough to not worry about that.
Yeah.
You accept that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't worry about it. And that's the students on the other side are like, I have to put my money, my time, my faith, and my trust in this person. And I have to risk that they're either full of shit or they really do know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So when we're both respectful of the fact that we're all risking by caring, then we say, okay, let's try. And I think if we do anything, it's just we're constantly trying to give people the confidence to overcome those insecurities and those fears that don't allow them to give themselves up to something. So us as leaders, we have to give as much of ourselves as possible so that they can at least find the momentum and inspiration to give of themselves as well. Because it sounds so weird that we're talking about martial arts and we're talking about this. I sound like a freaking relationship person. But the thing is, it is a relationship. It's a teacher and student relationship. I have to risk sharing with you because I don't know where you're going to take it. Yeah. And then you have to risk trying what I'm telling you, and you have no idea where it's going to go. But that's what the human experience is.
But that's the beauty of it. It's
we all can't sit on a mountaintop and write fucking books about what we think. At some point, we got to get our hands dirty, and we got to try and fucking build something. So I'm glad you came through, man. That was
a beautiful.
That was awesome. Thank you.
I'm so glad that we were able to also reunite.
Yeah.
In this setting too, because what better way to just talk for like literally hours?
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen you in a minute.
But the thing is too, the one thing I love about the internet is that I follow you and I see what you're doing, and like I haven't seen you in forever, but it feels like yesterday.
Literally feels
because like
I've been here the whole time.
Yeah. But like we've been
But I feel like
I'm following your path.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like we're both on the same path and we're converging on a lot of the same findings, which is really cool because my martial arts journey is coming back full circle. Like I started with you and now we went through this journey and we're both at the same place. You
got to understand, for me, the most valuable aspect of it is when I have guys that come back to our legacy like this is that trust factor I was just saying. Like, so we separate at some point. I give the time necessary for the value to set in, and then we usually come back around.
Yeah.
I have dozens of people that I've reconnected with, that even people I've had horrendous breaks with.
Yeah. And
The door is always open if the lesson sets in.
100%. Yeah.
If like we can not be aligned and then find alignment again and be okay.
Potatoes of this conversation.
Yeah.
It's like you will forever be embedded in my history. Like there is the current me without the experiences and the lessons I learned from you. And I cherish that. And I know where this all started. So
and you're the fuel for me to keep going as well.
100%.
So like the connection I have with guys like you.
Because if you're talking to me, you're also talking to yourself because. Yeah. Dude, if you gave me a bad first impression or you turned me off to my love for martial arts, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now, you know? And it's because of the environment you created and because of the lessons I've learned from you that the momentum was able to be kept. And
now you have your own school and you're in the same boat and you understand the legacy and the connection and that's why it's cool. So now we just keep it going. And then the next thing that happens, you'll be 50 one day and hopefully you're sitting there with one of your students doing 70, his thing. And I'll be dead, bro. I'll be dead. This body, I don't know. My body hurts, man.
No.
I can't look to the left right now.
Right? You guys, that's not happening, right?
My kids are like, Dad, don't talk like that. I'm going to try. I'm going to try real hard.
No, this is beautiful, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. This is Brian Wright with Nicholas Salles, the Hive Podcast 2.0. Peace.
Peace.
Merry Christmas.
Hey.
That was good shit, man.